Jefferson High, three popular basketball players thought they spotted an easy target when a quiet new student named Jamal Price stepped into their gym. He didn't look like someone who'd push back. They jeered, mocked, and tried to make him a public joke, unaware they just challenged someone far more prepared than they could imagine. What they didn't know? Jamal wasn't just any student. He held a black belt in jiu-jitsu. When the players decide to humiliate him during the most anticipated game of the year, their plan begins to unravel in a way no one expected, revealing hidden truths that shake the whole school. Can Jamal rise above it all and expose what's really going on? Or will those in power work overtime to silence the truth? Before we get into it, drop a comment telling us where you're tuning in from, and don't forget to subscribe, because tomorrow's story is even more unexpected. The morning sun spilled across Jefferson High's brick front as Jamal stepped out of his mom's old Honda Civic. The air was cool, with that crisp, clean scent that only comes at the start of something new. He adjusted his navy blue backpack, calm, steady, centered. Years of discipline taught him to move with purpose. From the driver's seat, his mother Simone, already dressed in flawless nurse's scrubs, reached over the console. "New school, new chance. Just stay focused, baby," she said. "I will," Jamal answered, managing a soft smile. "And remember, I know," he cut in gently. "Keep my cool, no matter what." She smiled, but behind it was a trace of concern. Inside, Jefferson High's hallway buzzed with motion, mostly unfamiliar faces. Jamal walked through them like a stone through water, calm, but clearly noticed. Conversations dipped to whispers. Some students moved aside. No one made eye contact. He'd seen this before. At the front office, a distracted secretary handed over his schedule without so much as a glance. "Welcome to Jefferson High," she said, already returning to her screen. His first few classes flew by, intros, polite smiles, and curious looks. One girl, Sarah, a redhead from chemistry, actually seemed kind. She invited him to sit with her at lunch, but by the time he arrived, her table had mysteriously filled up. The cafeteria was divided without signs, the athletes near the windows, the band kids along the wall, and in the middle, like kings of the court, the basketball team. Jamal found a quiet spot in the corner and unpacked the lunch his mom had packed with care. It didn't take long for the mockery to start. "Yo, Trent," one player said, loud enough for the room to hear, "check the new guy's shoes." Trent, the team captain, leaned back in his chair, grinning. "Budget-friendly drip, huh?" Laughter followed. Another player added, loud and pointed, "Might want to keep our stuff close." The tone said more than the words. Jamal didn't react, his breathing steady, his hands calm. Just like before every match, his mom's voice echoed in his head. "They can only shake you if you let them." He focused on his sandwich, eyes forward, every move deliberate. But the comments kept coming, just low enough to slip past teachers, but loud enough to sting. "He doesn't belong. Probably can't even..." The rest trailed off, but the message was clear. As he stood to toss his trash, one of the players, Brent, a bigger, louder one, exaggerated a scoot away from him. "Hey, I don't want trouble," he said with a fake laugh. Kyle, the other, added with mock concern, "Yeah, man. Better be safe." Jamal walked in silence, as if on the mat. Every step measured, every breath controlled. But he could feel Trent's gaze, not mocking now, but watching, measuring, plotting. And what came next? No one was ready for. That smirk on Trent's face said it all. He was used to getting away with this, used to people lowering their gaze, pretending not to notice, or worse, laughing along. But as Jamal returned to his seat and glanced at his reflection in the cafeteria window, what looked back wasn't just his own face. It was his mother's quiet strength, her calm fire. He sat alone, but undefeated. He opened his history textbook and let their noise fade into the background. Their laughter kept going. Their comments didn't stop. But Jamal? He didn't flinch. His back stayed straight, his hands steady, his face unreadable. Every breath reminded him of the training, the discipline, and the dignity he carried into every space, whether a dojo or a hostile cafeteria. After lunch, the halls were quiet. He passed rows of lockers and paused at a bulletin board. One flyer caught his attention. Open gym. All students welcome. He remembered his mom's words. Try, even when it's hard. He headed to the athletic office. Inside, the director barely looked up. Sign-up sheet's there, he muttered. Starts in 10. Jamal scribbled his name at the bottom, just beneath a list filled with familiar names, the same ones from the cafeteria. In the gym, the air was thick with old sweat and tension. Jamal changed quickly, wearing basic shorts and a plain white tee, a stark contrast to the branded gear of the regulars. Coach Wilson called everyone to center court. Let's mix it up today. He pointed at Jamal. You're on Trent's team. Let's see what you've got. Trent's smile curved into something sharp. Sure, coach, he said. We'll take real good care of him. The game started normal enough. Jamal moved smoothly, his form clean, his instincts sharp. But it didn't take long before the ball stopped coming his way. Even wide open, his teammates acted like he wasn't there. My bad, Kyle shouted after launching a pass 5 feet over Jamal's head. Didn't realize you were that short. Laughter echoed across the court. Next play, Brent set a screen that felt more like a body check. Oops, he said with fake innocence. Didn't see you. Coach Wilson didn't say a word. The whistle around his neck stayed still. From the bleachers, a few students looked uneasy, but nobody moved. Nobody said a thing. Jamal just kept breathing, focused, composed. That alone seemed to get under Trent's skin. You think you're better than us? Trent muttered during a free throw. You should know your place. And that's when it happened. Jamal finally got the ball. He broke away, heading for the basket, fast, agile, eyes locked in. But Kyle was on him instantly, swiping at the ball. Brent moved in hard from the right. And then Trent struck, a sudden, brutal hit from behind. Jamal's body flew forward, crashing onto the hardwood with a sharp echo that silenced the gym. Man down, Kyle called out, laughing under his breath. Brent smirked. For a second, the world paused. Jamal's muscles tightened. Every instinct from years of sparring told him to react. But he didn't. He remembered what mattered. With quiet purpose, he pushed himself up. Trent leaned in, voice dripping with sarcasm. You all right, man? Maybe this game's a little intense for you. But Jamal didn't rise in anger. He didn't even brush himself off. He stood tall, calm, still, and walked right back to his place. That unshakable stillness, it said more than any words could. It unsettled everyone, especially Trent. Some students watched with guilt in their eyes. Others stayed locked to their screens. Coach finally blew his whistle, but only to signal next possession. Let's keep it clean, he mumbled, but the damage had been done. Jamal stayed on the court, his stance perfect, his breath steady, the physical pain manageable. He'd taken harder hits in training, but the silence around him, the quiet acceptance of everything that had just happened, that weighed heavier than any fall. The message was loud and clear. This is our court, our rules. But Jamal didn't leave. He refused to be pushed out. Jamal wasn't going to give them the satisfaction of seeing him back down. His silence wasn't surrender. It was strength. Every step he took back to his seat was a quiet refusal to break, no matter how loud their laughter or how hard their hits. From across the gym, Kyle and Brent exchanged looks with Trent, clearly pleased with what they thought was a victory. To them, it was all a game, a performance with no rules and no consequences. But what they failed to see was that Jamal's calm wasn't weakness. It was the result of years of training, years of knowing when to fight and when to hold back. As the final bell rang and students flooded the hallways of Jefferson High, Jamal walked quickly to his locker, hoping to grab his things before more trouble found him. His shoulder still ached from the fall, but his posture remained upright, his face unreadable. Near his locker, Tyler Matthews, another member of the basketball crew, stood hunched over his phone. He wasn't texting, he was editing. "Yo, check this out," Tyler called, waving a group over. On his screen, a clip from the open gym played. The moment Jamal hit the ground. Over it, Tyler had added bold text, "When you forget your place, welcome to Jefferson." The meaning behind the words didn't need to be explained. Students gathered. Some chuckled, some just watched silently. No one spoke up. Within minutes, the video was all over social media, spreading through phones like wildfire. As Jamal walked through the parking lot, he could hear it. The whispers, the laughter, the sound of his fall, now repeated over and over again on screens he couldn't control. "Hey, movie star!" Trent called from across the sidewalk. He, Kyle, and Brent were huddled over a phone, grinning. "You should thank Tyler. Got your best angle." Jamal didn't respond. His jaw clenched, but his steps stayed even, his expression steady. Each breath was a choice not to react. In the lot, Simone was already waiting in the old Civic. The second her son opened the door, she could tell. "What happened, baby?" she asked gently. Before he could reply, both their phones buzzed. A link. The video had made its way to local parent groups, including Simone's work chat at the hospital. She watched it only once, her hands tightening on the wheel as her heart sank. Her face shifted, concern, then sadness, then something deeper. The ride home was silent. Words felt too small for what they were both feeling. At home, Simone sat beside Jamal on the couch, pulling him close like she used to when he was a child, back when the world's cruelty could be kept outside their door. Now, it had followed them in. Their phones wouldn't stop buzzing. Notifications, comments, laughing emojis, some messages from strangers at school pretending to care. Others, harsher, hiding behind jokes. Jamal turned his phone over, face down. He didn't want to see it again. Didn't want to hear the sound of that moment replayed like some joke everyone was in on. They had come to Jefferson looking for a fresh start, a safer school, a better shot. But on the very first day, they'd found something familiar in a new zip code. Simone hugged him tighter. She didn't need to ask if he was okay. She could feel the tension in his body. She knew her son wouldn't show pain to those who tried to break him. But in the safety of their small apartment, with the blinds drawn and the world on pause, she could feel the toll it had already taken. And as another shared link lit up her phone, the sound of laughter and the thud of hard wood echoed once more through the quiet, a reminder that for some people, pain is entertainment. But for Jamal and his mother, it was something else entirely. A beginning, a line crossed, and a fire slowly building. The sound of Jamal's fall still echoed in their small apartment, but Simone reached across the couch and silenced both their phones. For a moment, there were no pings, no alerts, just quiet, a silence heavy with pain, but wrapped in something stronger, the bond between a mother and son. No words were needed. Her arms around him said more than anything else. And though both knew that tomorrow would bring more challenges, for tonight, this quiet was enough. After practice, the locker room was nearly empty. Most of the players had already left, their footsteps fading into the distance. Under the buzzing fluorescent lights, Jamal moved carefully, wincing as he pulled off his shirt. The bruises on his shoulder had deepened, but he said nothing. He kept his focus on the basics, stayed away from Trent and his friends during practice, stuck with the second string, just trying to move through the day unseen. But trouble didn't need an invitation. The heavy door creaked open. Slow footsteps echoed, too purposeful to be casual. "Well, look who's still here," Trent's voice cut through the silence like a knife. "Our favorite teammate," he added, stepping into view with Kyle and Brent at his side. They blocked the main exit, and behind the rows of lockers, someone else froze. Marcus Bell, a student reporter who'd stayed late to work on a story. His fingers trembled as he raised his phone and hit record. Kyle smirked. "That video? It's already got 1,000 shares. You're basically a celebrity. Yeah, Brent added, but we figured it needs a part two. Jamal stood still, calm on the outside, even as his instincts screamed. He knew this stance, this setup, this moment. Trent stepped in closer. You've been real quiet since Monday, he said, towering over Jamal. Maybe we help you speak up. I don't want trouble, Jamal said evenly. Just let me go. Oh, he talks now, Kyle laughed. But see, you don't call the shots here. They started to move, one to his left, the other circling right, a triangle closing in. Jamal's breath slowed, muscles steady, his feet adjusted by instinct. Trent lunged, but he didn't connect. Jamal shifted, a sidestep, then a grip, and Trent's momentum betrayed him. With practiced ease, Jamal redirected the force, sending Trent crashing to the floor in a tangle of limbs and metal. Everything happened fast after that. Kyle swung wildly. Jamal caught his wrist and used the motion to send him stumbling into Brent. As they tangled, Jamal dropped low, sweeping Brent's legs clean out from under him. Marcus kept filming, capturing every clean movement, every stunned expression. Trent scrambled up, face red with rage. He charged again. And again, Jamal moved like water. One motion, one hip throw. Trent was back on the ground. Brent tried to grab Jamal from behind. Bigger, stronger. But Jamal shifted his stance, dropped his weight, and executed a flawless shoulder throw. Brent landed hard next to Trent. The locker room rang with the sound of bodies hitting tile, and then silence. Only Kyle remained standing. He backed away slowly, eyes wide. What are you? Jamal didn't move. He stood calm, centered, breathing steady, not a single punch thrown. Someone who just wanted to be left alone, he said quietly. Remember that. The words hung in the air. The three bullies, usually untouchable, were now sprawled across the floor, groaning. The place they once ruled now held only their humiliation, captured forever on Marcus's phone. In less than a minute, the balance of power at Jefferson High had shifted. Outside, the evening sun dipped low behind the rooftops. Marcus waited near the bus stop, still clutching his phone, the screen warm in his hand. He didn't know what would happen next, but he knew one thing for sure. The video would be seen, and for once, the truth would speak louder than the lies. When Marcus spotted Jamal walking home, he jogged to catch up, glancing around to make sure no one else was nearby. Hey Jamal, wait, he called out, his voice low. Jamal turned sharply, tension visible in his shoulders, until he recognized the face. You're Marcus and from English, right? Yeah, Marcus said, nodding quickly. Listen. I saw what happened today in the locker room. I was there. I filmed it. Jamal froze. You recorded it? Yeah, but wait, Marcus said, pulling out his phone. You need to see this. People need to see this. They sat on a bench near the curb. Marcus hit play. The video was clear, steady. It showed everything. Trent and his crew trying to trap Jamal, then getting dismantled with calm, controlled technique. No punches, no rage, just precision. The way you moved, Marcus shook his head. Man, that was next level. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Jamal said quietly. Been training since I was 6. We should post this, Marcus said. Let the truth come out. People need to know. Jamal stared at the screen, conflict all over his face. I don't know. This could make things worse. Worse than the first video they posted? The one that made you a joke? That was different, Jamal said, his voice low. If this gets out, they'll be furious. They'll twist it. Marcus paused, then sent the video to Jamal's phone. Just keep it. Think about it. That evening, Jamal came home to the smell of his mom's chicken stew. Simone stood at the stove, still in her scrubs, humming softly. You're late, she said. Everything all right? Jamal set his bag down, took a breath. Something happened after practice. She turned, already reading his expression like a book. Tell me. He pulled out his phone and played the video. Simone watched every second. She didn't say a word, just held the wooden spoon in her hand until the screen went black. They cornered you? She asked, voice tight. They tried, Jamal said. But I remembered what Sensei Chen taught me. No strikes, just control. They sat at the table. Simone took his hand. Baby, I'm proud of you, truly. But this is serious. We need to show this to the principal. And then what? Jamal asked. Those boys have power, money, influence. The school ignored the first video. Why would this be different? Because this one shows the truth, she replied. It also shows me tossing 3 players across a locker room, he said carefully. They'll spin it, say I snapped, that I was dangerous. She held his hand tighter. You can't stay silent forever. I'm not, Jamal said. They know now. They know I'm not an easy target. Sometimes that's not enough, Simone whispered. Sometimes you have to speak up. Can I just think about it? One day, she said. But if they come at you again, we go straight to the top. No hesitation. I promise. Across town, in the dark parking lot of a shut-down corner store, Trent was pacing between 2 cars, rage in every step. He made us look like fools, he spat. Some transfer kid, Brent added, rubbing his shoulder. And he's got real training. I don't care if he's trained by the military, Trent snapped. Nobody does that to us. Kyle leaned against the hood of his car, watching Trent pace. So what now? We can't jump him again. He'll just do that again. No, Trent said slowly, his voice darkening. We get smarter. We get strategic. Kyle raised an eyebrow. I'm listening. The championship game, Trent said, a grin creeping across his face. Everyone will be there. Parents, teachers, students, perfect audience. What do? We get in his head, all game, little things the refs won't see, trash talk, elbows, space. We make him lose it. And when he does, Kyle said, catching on, we make sure it looks like he started everything, Trent finished. Angry, out of control, dangerous. We control the story this time. Brent nodded. Classic move. Let the crowd see what we want them to. They stood in the harsh glow of a flickering security light, finalizing their plan. Across town, Jamal lay in bed, the locker room video now sitting silently on his phone, burning with weight. The next morning, Jefferson High felt colder. Whispers followed Jamal down the hallway. Faces that once smiled, now turned away. Clusters of students paused their conversations as he passed, then started again in hushed tones. In English class, the seats around his usual spot were suddenly empty. He scanned the room. On the other side, Marcus met his gaze and gave a quiet, grim nod. I heard he just lost it, a girl whispered behind Jamal, loud enough for him to hear, like totally snapped on Trent and the others. The version of the story had already changed, and Jamal hadn't even said a word. My cousin's on the team, a voice behind Jamal whispered. He said the new kid just snapped, started throwing people. Jamal stared forward, jaw tight, his mother's voice playing in his mind like a shield. Stay calm, stay focused. But his fists clenched under the desk. Between classes, Trent and his crew moved through the halls like seasoned politicians, spinning their version of the story with just enough volume to make sure Jamal heard. We were just getting changed, Trent said to a group of cheerleaders, rubbing his shoulder dramatically. He came out of nowhere, just attacked us, Kyle added, shaking his head with a smirk. Probably thought we disrespected him or something. You know how they get. That they hung in the air, heavy with meaning. Jamal walked past in silence, but Trent wasn't done. Someone better step in before he really hurt somebody. By lunchtime, the cafeteria had become a war zone, only no one said it out loud. Jamal sat alone. The nearest tables stayed empty. Even the lunch ladies handed him his tray with wary eyes. In chemistry, his lab partner asked to switch groups. Nothing personal, she said without looking at him. Just, you know? The teachers didn't say much either. But Jamal felt the shift, coldness, distance. In math, the teacher who'd praised his work days earlier didn't call on him once. In history, when Trent knocked his books off his desk, the teacher didn't say a word. After school, Simone made her third call to the principal's office. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Price," the secretary repeated. "He's still in meetings." "For 2 days?" Simone's voice was calm, but firm. "Let him know this is my third documented attempt. Please make a note of that." The next day it got worse. Someone had scratched a word into Jamal's locker, a word that was meant to define him, a word he wouldn't repeat. In gym, no one picked him for teams. The coach just sighed and benched him. And in the hallway, Brent was loud enough for everyone to hear. "My dad's a lawyer," he told another student. "With how violent that kid is, if the school doesn't act, they could be liable. What if he attacks a teacher next?" Jamal carried those words home like lead. Simone was waiting for him. "Baby, come sit," she said softly. He dropped his bag and sat beside her. And for the first time in days, the weight cracked his voice. "They're turning everyone against me, Mom. Even the teachers." Simone wrapped her arms around him. "I know, baby, but we have the video." Jamal's voice trembled. "If we show it, they'll twist it. Say I used martial arts. Say I'm dangerous. Say I started it." Simone looked him in the eye. "No matter what we show, some will twist it. That's how it's always been. But listen to me, you're not wrong for defending yourself." Jamal looked away. "So they just get away with it?" Simone didn't flinch. "Number. But this is what you need to understand. The system, it's not built to protect boys who look like you, not from boys who look like them. I've seen it too many times. A black boy defends himself, and suddenly he's the threat." Jamal sat still, his eyes heavy. "So what am I supposed to do?" "We document everything," Simone said. "Every comment, every call, every incident, and we don't let them push you into becoming what they say you are." Jamal nodded slowly. "Like Sensei Chen says, strongest defense is a clear mind." "Exactly." Simone smiled gently. "They want you to lose it. Don't give them that power." "I won't," Jamal whispered. "But it's hard being this alone." "You're not alone," Simone said, pulling him into her arms. "Not now, not ever." The next morning at Jefferson High, the whispers were louder, the stares sharper. Jamal walked with his head up, but his steps carried the weight of every lie being told about him. At his locker, he saw Marcus waiting nearby, phone in hand, face anxious. But before he could speak, a girl approached. "Hey," she said, firm and direct. "I'm Lily Torres. You're Jamal, right?" He nodded, unsure what to expect. "I saw what happened in gym. No one picking you, coach just benching you. That was garbage. He should be ashamed." Marcus stepped closer. "She's right," he said quietly. "None of this is okay." Another student, Rebecca, the shy girl from English, joined them. She barely looked up, but her voice was steady. "I know you didn't hurt anyone. Trent and them, they've done this before. They're lying." Something inside Jamal loosened, something he didn't realize had been clenched for days. "Thanks," he said softly. "That means a lot." Lily crossed her arms. "They think they run this school. Just because their parents donate a few benches or whatever, it's ridiculous." The warning bell rang. Rebecca gave a small wave and hurried off, but Lily leaned closer. "Listen, we're meeting at Mel's Diner after school. Some of us. You should come." She glanced at Marcus. "Show him the video." Jamal blinked. "You told her?" Marcus nodded. "Yeah, because the truth matters." "If you'd like, I can continue this into the diner scene or prep this section as a voiceover-ready script, complete with beats and visuals." "Just Lily," Marcus said quickly, seeing the look on Jamal's face. "She's cool. She doesn't back down." Lily rolled her eyes. Cool, please. I just don't take garbage from people who think they own the place. My family didn't leave one country just to let rich kids shove us around in another. The bell rang before Jamal could respond, sending them off in different directions. But throughout the day, he noticed something was changing. Lily sat right next to him in history class. Not subtle, not quiet. Anyone who whispered nearby got a death glare and a raised eyebrow. In chemistry, Marcus took the empty seat beside Jamal when his lab partner bailed. Even Rebecca, the shy girl from English, gave him a small, shy smile when their eyes met. It wasn't much, but it was something. After school, Jamal texted his mom that he'd be late and walked the few blocks to Mel's Diner. It was one of those classic places with red booths, chrome stools, and a jukebox that hadn't worked in years. Lily waved him over to a corner booth where she and Marcus were already demolishing a plate of fries. "Okay," Lily started before he could even sit. "I saw the video. They came at you, and you handled it. Why aren't we showing this to the whole school?" "It's not that simple," Jamal said, lowering his voice. "They'll twist it, make it look like I'm the one who snapped." "He's right," Marcus added. "They're already spreading rumors, saying he's dangerous." "He used martial arts because they attacked him," Lily cut in. "That's what the video shows." "And what will they say?" Jamal asked, staring at the table. 3 white basketball players, 1 black kid with a black belt. You know exactly how that looks. Lily's face darkened. "Because you're black." "Yeah." Jamal's voice was quiet. "My mom's been trying to reach the principal for days. He won't take her calls." "That's messed up," Lily said, stealing another fry. "So what's the plan?" "Plan?" Jamal repeated. "Yeah, the plan. Because we're not letting them get away with this." She looked between Marcus and Jamal. "Marcus has the footage. I've got a loud mouth and zero fear of Trent's little gang. And you've got skills they didn't expect." "I'm not trying to fight them," Jamal said quickly. "No one's asking you to," Marcus said. "But if it happens again, this time we'll have the full story, from the start." "We film everything," Lily nodded. "The setup, the threats, multiple angles, I can help, and Rebecca, she sees everything." The waitress came by and took their orders. After she left, Jamal leaned in. "My mom says we should document it all, every incident, build a record." "Perfect," Lily said. "Marcus is basically a stealth cameraman already. I'll get other students to talk. A lot of people are sick of Trent. They're just scared. Rebecca told me they bullied her brother so bad last year he had to transfer," Marcus added. "Exactly," Lily said. "People just need to know they're not alone." Their food arrived. Burgers, fries, milkshakes, and they spent the next hour building something bigger than a plan. Marcus would keep filming, Lily would rally support, and Jamal, he'd do the hardest part, stay calm, stay centered, no matter what. "But if they touch you again," Lily said, pointing a fry like a sword, "don't hold back. We'll make sure everyone sees exactly what happened." For the first time in days, Jamal felt something shift inside, something lighter. Hope. He wasn't alone anymore. The scent of clean mats and still air welcomed Jamal as he stepped into Coach Morales' dojo. Sunlight filtered through the high windows, casting warm beams across the floor. It felt like a sanctuary. "Jamal, come," Coach Morales said, smiling gently. "Get changed." Minutes later, Jamal stepped onto the mat in his black belt uniform. He bowed. The tension in his shoulders was harder to hide. "Your mother called me," Coach said, voice low. "She's worried." "It's nothing, Coach, just school stuff." Coach circled him slowly. "Show me your guard." They moved through basics. Jab step, sprawl, hip escape, familiar patterns. The motion loosened Jamal's body, but not his mind. "Your technique is sharp," Coach said, "but your spirit is not at peace. Speak." So Jamal did. He told him everything. The locker room, the rumors, the lies, the fear of what would happen if the truth got out. Coach listened silently, only stopping him to adjust a stance or show a better grip. When Jamal finished, they sat on the mat in stillness. "The hardest battles," Coach said, "are not fought with fists." He took a long breath. "When I first came to this country, I opened a small dojo, Nice neighborhood, big houses. The other business owners, they didn't want me there. Coach looked across the mat, as if seeing another time. They called the police, said my students were dangerous, said I was bringing the wrong people into their street. But I kept teaching. I stayed calm. I built trust. He demonstrated a slow, gentle wrist lock, smooth, precise, unthreatening. They wanted me to lose control, so I never gave them that. Jamal looked at his mentor, hearing more in that silence than any technique ever taught. Sometimes, Coach added, control is the strongest strike. Jamal nodded. He still didn't know how the week would end, but for the first time, he knew how he would carry himself through it. When they pushed, I didn't push back, Jamal said quietly. I just redirected, like Sensei taught me. Their energy became mine. Good. Coach Morales nodded, guiding Jamal's hand through another control movement. That's the principle. Control their force. Use it wisely. But what if staying calm isn't enough? Jamal asked, mind flashing back to Trent and the others. What if they keep coming? Coach stepped back, studying Jamal. In that locker room, you used exactly the amount of force you needed, no more. That shows strength. But now, he paused. Now, they'll want to provoke you. They'll try to make you slip, make them the victims, and you the problem. Jamal nodded slowly. My mom said the same, that it's a trap. Your mother, Coach said with a proud smile, is a wise woman. They practiced more. Rolls, breaks, guard switches. Each movement helping Jamal center himself again. After a while, Coach called for a break. They sat on the edge of the mat, sweat drying in the sunbeam streaming through the window. When I opened my first dojo, Coach said, his voice quiet, I chose a nice neighborhood. People didn't like it, said I didn't belong, accused my students of causing trouble. They called the police over nothing. Jamal looked up, surprised. In 6 years, Coach had never spoken of his past. I could have fought back in anger, proved their fears right, but instead, I stayed, taught, built trust. Now, years later, their kids train here. He smiled. Strength isn't about showing power. It's knowing when not to use it. The words sank into Jamal's chest, deeper than any throw or drill ever had. He wasn't just learning how to defend his body. He was learning how to protect his peace. The next morning, the air outside Jefferson High was thick with whispers. Students clustered in groups, phones out, voices low. Lily pushed through the crowd, breathless. You guys here? She said to Jamal and Marcus near the front steps. Trent's dad came to school, made a huge scene, yelling loud enough to hear through the principal's door. Marcus leaned in. My sister works in the office. She said he threatened to sue the school if they don't do something about the violent element. Jamal's stomach dropped, but he said nothing. They're building a case, Lily added, frowning. He literally said when you lose control, not if. They're counting on it. The bell rang. Inside the halls, the shift was even more obvious. Students pulled away as Jamal passed, whispering behind hands. He's got a record. I heard he attacked kids at his last school. No wonder he knows how to fight. In first period, Kyle sat 2 rows over, texting with a smirk, eyes flicking toward Jamal every few minutes like a silent dare. At lunch, Marcus played a new recording on his phone, captured just minutes earlier. From the next table, the basketball team's voices were clear. Trent's dad's got it covered, one player bragged. Principal Morris is scared of losing his job. Coach Thompson's not benching his starters before championships. That new kid, he's already done, just waiting for it to blow up. Jamal stared at his tray. He couldn't eat. Coach Morales' words echoed in his mind, but the pressure was mounting from all sides. Across town, in Kyle's garage, the team was busy rehearsing. With Kyle's parents gone for the weekend, it had become a war room. The ping pong table was covered with notes, screenshots, game diagrams. Trent stood at the head of it all, pacing. Championships in 2 weeks, he said. Halftime, that's our shot. He tapped the gym layout on his phone. Bleachers, we pull him under, make it look like we're just talking, then boom, we get him to snap. Kyle nodded. I already spread it around. Everyone thinks he's gonna lose it. Even teachers are watching him weird. Perfect, Trent smirked. We need cameras in place, hidden until he moves. The second he reacts, we win. They practiced different setups. One player would bump Jamal hard in the hallway. Another would spill a drink. Someone would yell something personal. Every detail rehearsed, every word planned. Watch where you're going, man. Why you so aggressive? Chill out, bro. Nobody touched you. Make it seem like he's the threat, Trent ordered. Phone's out, but hidden. What if he doesn't fight back? One asked. Trent's face turned cold. Oh, he will. He won't have a choice. Not when every school sees him as a liability. My dad's already working on that. He picked up a basketball, mimicking a casual shove. All we have to do is press the right buttons. Kyle pulled up the first viral video on his phone. Jamal hitting the gym floor. Then the locker room clip. Look how calm he was at first. But in the end, everyone saw what he could do. He's got skills. We just need to corner him again. Trent smiled. And this time, we'll own the ending. They marked their positions on the garage floor with tape, rehearsing like it was theater. Each move choreographed. Who would block exits? Who would film? Who would provoke? The best part? Trent said, his voice cold and calm. By the time anyone figures out what happened, it's too late. His word against all of ours. The others laughed, packing up their plans. None of them saw the small blinking red light in the window, Marcus's phone, recording everything from the bushes outside. Jefferson High's gym pulsed with energy. The crowd roared. Banners rippled. Blue and gold waves filled the bleachers. It felt like a championship already. Outside in the parking lot, Jamal stood beside his mother. Simone adjusted his collar, her hands gentle but firm. Remember what we said, she told him. Head high, mind steady, no matter what. I know. Jamal's voice was calm, but his fingers tugged at the edge of his jacket. I saw the video, he added. Marcus got it. They're planning something. Simone's eyes narrowed. Let them. You're stronger than they'll ever understand. Not just here. She tapped his shoulder. But here, she touched his chest. Inside, the crowd thundered. Jamal met Marcus and Lily near concessions. Both looked tense. They've been watching the doors, Marcus said quietly, nodding toward Trent and Kyle near the locker hallway. They're waiting, Lily added. But so are we. Rebecca's up top. We've got eyes on everything. The warm-ups echoed across the gym. Squeaks, dribbles, sneakers sliding across polished wood. Jamal sat beside his mother, trying to focus, but he could feel it. Eyes, whispers, pressure building. At halftime, Principal Morris strolled out smiling, shaking hands, standing beside Trent's father, Mr. Walker, whose suit and smug grin broadcast power. When his gaze landed on Jamal, the smile chilled. That man gives me the creeps, Simone muttered. Then Jamal's phone buzzed. Under the bleachers now, or your friend Marcus might have an accident after the game. We know he's been watching. You've got one chance. Jamal showed his mother. Simone's face tightened, her grip on his hand hardening. They're not even pretending anymore, she said. We leave. Now. But across the gym, Jamal saw Marcus, eyes searching, worry plain on his face. They'll go after him, Jamal said quietly. I can't let that happen. Another buzz. Clock's ticking, come alone, or he pays. Simone grabbed Jamal's wrist. It's a trap. They want you to lose it. I know. Jamal gave a small, almost broken smile. That's why I won't. He walked down the bleacher steps slowly, breath deep, every footstep heavier than the last. The noise of the crowd dulled in his ears. Under the bleachers, it was dim, cramped. The light barely reached the shadows. Jamal's phone buzzed again. Smart choice. Let's see what you've got. He stepped forward. and saw Marcus, bound, slumped against a steel support beam, duct tape around his wrists and mouth. His eyes were wide, terrified, muffled sounds escaping behind the tape. Trent's voice echoed from behind. "Welcome to the party." Jamal turned. Trent blocked the exit. Kyle and Brent stepped out of the shadows. "No more little spy tricks," Kyle sneered, lifting his phone. His camera light flared on. "Let's show everyone who you really are." Brent cracked his knuckles, stepping into place. What none of them saw was Lily, crouched behind a nearby maintenance panel, phone streaming live, broadcasting everything. "I'm not fighting you," Jamal said, calm, hands raised. "Let him go." "Oh, now he wants to talk," Trent laughed. "But see, this ends when we say it ends." Kyle circled behind, phone still rolling. "Maybe we help your friend. Breathe a little less, see how long your peace lasts." Something shifted in Jamal's eyes. Not fear, not anger. Focus, stillness. Brent lunged, fast, wild, full of force. Jamal moved like water. He stepped inside the attack, redirecting the momentum with precision. One fluid motion, an arm trap, a hip turn, and Brent hit the floor hard, landing with a thud. Trent's eyes widened. Jamal didn't strike. He didn't follow up. He simply took a stance, balanced, calm, waiting. Kyle panicked, rushed him with the phone still recording. Jamal ducked, spun, and used his own shoulder to shift Kyle's weight off balance. Kyle stumbled sideways, phone clattering to the ground. Trent roared in frustration and charged, brute strength over skill. Jamal sidestepped, using Trent's momentum against him. With a clean pivot and a redirect, Trent crashed shoulder first into the steel support beam. Groaning, dazed, Jamal stepped back, hands still raised. "I told you," he said. "I'm not fighting you." Behind the metal frames, Lily's stream continued, viewers multiplying by the second. Rebecca's camera up in the bleachers caught it from above. Marcus's sister had already called the school security office. And across the gym, Simone saw it too, her eyes wide as her phone buzzed with the live feed. The trap had sprung, but not on Jamal, on them. And this time, the whole school was watching. Before Brent could rise, Jamal had him in a controlled hold, firm but not violent. "Stay down," he said quietly. "I don't want to hurt you." Kyle rushed forward, camera still recording, but Jamal let Brent go and spun just in time. Kyle's full-speed tackle missed completely, slamming him shoulder first into a support beam with a dull metallic clang. Then came Trent, eyes wild with rage. "You're dead," he roared, fists flying in wild arcs. Jamal didn't hesitate. He dropped low, caught the momentum, and launched Trent over his hip in a flawless throw. The team captain hit the floor hard, air knocked from his lungs. Jamal didn't strike. He simply pinned Trent in a calm, dominant mount, one that said, "This ends now." "I'm letting you up," Jamal said firmly. "Then we all walk out of here." In the shadows, Lily's live stream continued. Her hands trembled, the viewer count now in the tens of thousands. The comments were coming faster than she could read. Brent staggered up, holding his shoulder. Kyle sat slumped, dazed. But Trent wasn't done. As soon as Jamal released him, Trent scrambled to his feet and pulled something from his jacket. A small knife, flashing in the harsh light of a phone camera. "Think you're better than us?" he snarled. "Let's see you block this." The blade came fast, slashing. Jamal didn't flinch. He stepped in close, closer than the knife, caught the wrist, and locked it. The knife hit the ground with a loud clink. "It's not kung fu," Jamal said calmly. "It's jujitsu, and I've trained for weapons, too." Above them, the crowd noise shifted. Whistles blew, doors slammed. Footsteps thundered on metal stairs. "Security's coming!" Kyle shouted, scrambling to his feet. "We gotta go!" Jamal released Trent, who stumbled backward, cradling his wrist. The three fled, leaving behind their phones, the knife, and any last illusion of control. Jamal ran to Marcus, untying his wrists with shaking hands. "I'm sorry," Marcus whispered. "They jumped me in the hallway. I tried—" "You're okay," Jamal said. "You're safe now." Lily stepped from her hiding spot, phone still filming. "Don't blame yourself. Look." She held up the screen. Over 50,000 viewers. Comments flying. They set him up. He stayed calm. That kid is a hero. They can't lie their way out now, Lily said. Everyone saw it. Flashlights cut through the gloom. Security guards rushed in. Teachers followed, and with them, Simone. She ran straight to Jamal, wrapping him in a fierce embrace. "Are you okay?" she demanded. "I called security the second you left." "I'm fine, Mom," Jamal whispered. "Really? They're the ones who'll need ice." Simone smiled through her fear. Lily lifted her phone. The whole internet saw it. You're not just okay, you're cleared. Outside, red and blue lights flashed against the school walls. Police escorted Trent, Kyle, and Brent into separate cruisers. Detective Martinez spoke to Jamal and Marcus beside the bleachers, Lily filming from a respectful distance. "And they lured you here through threats?" the detective asked, scribbling notes. "Yes, ma'am," Jamal said, pointing to the duct tape, knife, and phones. "They tied Marcus up, then pulled the knife on me." Simone stood beside him, her hand firm on his shoulder. "My son defended himself, with control, nothing more. The video proves it." Detective Martinez nodded. "That live stream made our job easy. Smart thinking, Lily." Principal Morris hovered nearby, looking pale. "Perhaps we should take this discussion to my office," he offered weakly. Simone turned, voice sharp. "Perhaps you should explain why those boys weren't suspended weeks ago, or why my calls were ignored." Before Morris could reply, an expensive SUV screeched into the lot. Richard Walker stormed out, red-faced. "What the hell is going on?" he shouted. "Why is my son in handcuffs?" Detective Martinez stepped forward. "Your son and his friends ambushed 2 students, used threats and hate speech, and brandished a weapon. It's all been documented." "Video can be faked," Walker snapped. "My son is the victim. Arrest him." He pointed at Jamal. Lily stepped forward, calm as ever. "It was live-streamed, Mr. Walker. 50,000 people watched it happen in real time." Walker's face froze. "I'll sue everyone involved," he snapped. "I'll have your jobs." Simone interrupted, cool and unwavering. "Good, because we'll be forwarding this video to the school board, along with the first assault, the locker vandalism, the racial harassment, and your influence over school policy." More vehicles pulled in. Reporters, news vans, and parents who'd seen the stream. A microphone was thrust toward Principal Morris. "Sir, did the school ignore multiple incidents of racial bullying?" He tugged at his collar. "No comment at this time. We take all student concerns very seriously." "Then why wasn't this investigated?" Another reporter called. "Or the slurs carved into Jamal's locker?" Voices rose. Questions multiplied. Walker barked into his phone, demanding his lawyer. Police separated angry parents as the parking lot swelled with tension. Through it all, Jamal stood steady. Marcus beside him, Lily filming. Detective Martinez turned to Jamal with a final nod. "You'll need to give a formal statement," she said. "But from what I've seen, this was self-defense and incredibly restrained." Jamal gave a small, tired smile. "Thank you. If you'd like, I can now write the epilogue. What happens in the days after? News coverage, principal's resignation, how Jamal's story sparks change at Jefferson High and beyond." Jamal turned to Marcus. "You good to give a statement too?" Marcus nodded, still shaken but standing straighter than before. They need to face consequences this time. No more covering it up. Lily was scrolling through her phone, eyes wide. It's everywhere. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. People are sharing the video like wildfire. Civil rights groups are already tagging the school board. Justice for Jamal is trending. Simone squeezed her son's hand. "Come on, baby, let's go home. It's been a long night." As they walked to the car, a few community members called out support. Some students, the same ones who had once looked away, stepped forward to apologize. Jamal just nodded, too drained to speak, But he saw them. He heard them. That night at home, Jamal and Simone sat together on the couch. The news ran story after story. His phone buzzed constantly with messages of support, not just from their town, but from across the country. "Look at this," Simone said, holding up her phone. The NAACP had issued a statement. Other civil rights groups were calling for a full investigation. Former students were coming forward with their own stories, incidents that had been buried for years. "I didn't want this," Jamal said, voice heavy. "I just wanted to be treated like anyone else." "I know, baby," Simone said softly. "But sometimes, standing up for yourself means standing up for others too." She kissed his forehead. "You showed strength, not just on the mat, but in your heart, and that's something no one can take away." Jamal watched one of the clips replaying on the news, his movements precise, restrained. No wild strikes, no chaos, just clarity, calm, and control, even when faced with a blade. "Coach Morales would be proud," he said, a small smile breaking through. His phone buzzed again. A message from Lily. "CNN wants to interview you. Tomorrow. You ready to tell your story?" Jamal looked at his mom. She nodded. "Ready," he typed back. Time for the truth. Monday morning brought something Jamal never expected. Protest signs, chants. Hundreds gathered outside Jefferson High. The front lawn disappeared behind banners and handmade posters. No justice, no peace, justice for Jamal. End the silence. News vans lined both sides of the street. Helicopters hovered overhead. At the center of the crowd, Reverend Jackson raised the megaphone. "For too long," he declared, "this school has protected privilege over truth. Today we say, no more." Jamal watched from the car, parked across the street. "You don't have to go in," Simone said gently. "No one would blame you." "I'm not hiding," Jamal replied. "That's what they expect." They crossed the street. Reporters surged. "Jamal, how do you respond to claims you provoked the attack?" "Mrs. Price, will you sue the school?" "What message do you have for other students facing racism?" Police cleared a path. "Step back. Let them through," Detective Martinez instructed firmly. Inside, the school felt different. Quiet, uneasy. Most students had stayed home. Those who didn't watched Jamal with wide eyes, whispered, shifted in their seats. But near his locker, he saw something better. Lily and Marcus. "You okay?" Lily asked, hugging him. "The video's at 5 million. Jamal nodded. "Yeah, thanks for standing with me." Marcus smiled. Someone had to tell the truth. "Oh," the intercom buzzed. But it wasn't Principal Morris's voice. "This is Vice Principal Chen," the voice said. "Due to today's demonstration, all classes will meet in secure areas. Security is stationed throughout the building. Harassment of any kind will not be tolerated." Jamal's phone lit up with an alert. "Richard Walker holds press conference. My son is not a racist." He opened it. "This has been blown out of proportion," Walker snapped at cameras. "We are considering legal action against those pushing this narrative." Lily reached over and closed the screen. "Nope, not today. Let him spin in his own lies." Throughout the day, students approached Jamal. Quiet apologies, handwritten notes. Rebecca from English handed him a card, signed by dozens of classmates. "We should have spoken up sooner," she whispered. "I'm sorry we didn't." At lunch, for the first time since transferring, Jamal didn't sit alone. The table was full of voices, questions, truth. They weren't just talking about the fight. They were talking about everything. Privilege, racism, fear, change. "Did you see the alumni letter?" Josh, a senior, asked. Over 500 former students signed it. They want Morris out. "My parents went here," Maria added. Same stories, same silence. Back then, too. Change doesn't come easy or fast. But on that Monday, in a cafeteria once ruled by fear, change had a voice, and his name was Jamal. The school once protected the powerful. Now, it was listening to the voices it had silenced for years. Outside, protests grew. Civil rights leaders arrived. Former students spoke out. The truth couldn't be buried anymore. Jamal and his mother watched the emergency board meeting from home. One by one, parents, students, teachers stood up and shared what they had carried for far too long. Stories of bullying, silence, and pain. And then came the change. Principal Morris suspended, the bullies expelled. A new task force formed, bias training made mandatory. And for the first time, the school said the words out loud. We failed you. That ends now. Jamal didn't celebrate. He didn't gloat. He just exhaled, knowing it wasn't the end. It was the beginning. A few days later, under the bright lights of the citywide Youth Martial Arts Championship, Jamal stood tall. He won his division, calm, controlled, precise, just like Coach Morales taught him. But what mattered more was what he said after. When I faced racism, I could have chosen anger. But strength means staying calm. Strength means standing for truth without hate. And it means saying, this isn't right, not just for me, but for everyone. When Jamal walked back into Jefferson High, everything felt different. His championship photo now hung beside equity pledges and posters for cultural events. His locker, once vandalized, now displayed a quote. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. Students didn't look away anymore. They looked up, not at a hero, but at a peer who reminded them what respect could look like, what courage could sound like, what real change could feel like. And as Jamal walked to class, no spotlight, no noise, just quiet dignity, he knew he hadn't just defended himself, he'd helped rebuild an entire school. If this story moved you, like the video, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to be reminded that courage, respect, and truth can change everything. And don't go just yet. I've picked 2 more powerful stories you'll love. Click on one. Your next journey starts now.